Katie is up early and spends consistent time with the Lord every day. I am back and forth of getting up early and not, and squeezing in some time with the Lord in the middle of the day or at night if I didn't earlier. So our devotional life does not always overlap the way that I would like it to. I even heard a guy who grew up in a Catholic house, and one of his lasting memories from his childhood is every night, when he was walking to bed after getting his homework done in high school, he could peek in the 1 or 2 inches that his parents' door was open, and they were on their knees praying next to their bed together every day. So the way, the time, the place, the way a husband and wife can pray together, that can be decided, and families can work through that. Where Katie and I tend to be praying consistently together is in the family devotion. We found our kids are most attentive and participative and happy to participate in the family devotion if we do it during their breakfast. And so, they are shoving Cheerios in their mouth and toast and eggs. We're asking catechism questions, and we say, who made you? And they're yelling God, and out comes like a scrambled egg while they're screaming it. And then we end the time of catechism, and sometimes we read the Jesus Storybook Bible, a children's Bible. Sometimes I'll read a very small or short parable from the New Testament, and that's when we read Dad's Bible, the real Bible. And we talk about it. We sing Amazing Grace because both kids know about 3 verses of that. And then we say, all right, how can we pray for you guys today? And all 4 of us share a few things that are happening in that day that we need help from God for. My 3-year-old boy just about always says that Mommy and I have fun together today. And so we pray for that daily, and they do. And then the girl often asks for God's help to be nice to her teachers and her classmates at preschool. And she is the best, man. She said one time, she was like, I don't feel like being nice to them. And I said, wow. Well, let's ask God for some help. And she said, that doesn't even work because I asked him yesterday and I still wasn't nice to them. And she means it. Like, she's so sincerely like, I wanted God to help me on that one. I was still a jerk.
That is cute.
She's the best. She is the best, man. So that time every day we are praying meaningfully for. It usually will be Dad will say, here are a couple meetings I have. Mom will say, here are some errands Charlie and I are running. And we really do kind of pray for each other's day. So for us, that seems to work.
Gotcha. All right. So whenever one of your kids says something like that, is it hard for you not to laugh, or do you just bust out in laughter in their face?
You kind of have to play it by ear. That one, Lottie was so sincere in that moment that I so desired to not embarrass her that I actually was able to hold that one together. But then there are times where I actually think it's healthy where my daughter will say, to Mom, why do you always get to pick what's for dinner? And my wife will laugh at her. and Lottie will be like, Dad, Mom laughed at me. And it's like, well, that's because you forgot about the 5th commandment. So I think there's some health in laughing at, certainly laughing with the way that most human beings learn how to be decent is that they know everyone will make fun of you if you're like the biggest jerk in your middle school class. No one's going to like you. So, there's some laughter at sometimes, but most of the time it's with. I have noticed our kids are at ages where they sometimes don't love the laughing with. Like, they'll say something hilarious, we'll laugh, and they're like, why are you laughing at me? And it's like, I just thought that was sweet, baby. I don't know. We're trying to figure that one out. That's a tricky one.
All right. Well, I thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Yeah, we think about that one. We have to think about that one. There's a lot of laughing in our house right now.
Well, if anybody knows Chip, we'd understand why.
And those clowns, man. I have some funny people that live in my house.
All right. Very good response. Very good response.
Hey, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, Hi, this is Christy Lundy with Bucket List Travels, specializing in faith-based trips. I work with a tour company that has over 40 years experience and over 40 itineraries to choose from. These trips are all inclusive and offer payment plans, making it a reality for most of your congregation to participate in. Your church family will bond with each other in a deep and meaningful way by experiencing these locations together. Bring the Bible to life by visiting these locations in which the accounts took place. Walk in the footsteps of Jesus, Old Testament prophets, and New Testament disciples. After deciding the itinerary your church would love and benefit from the most, I will take over all planning, travel arrangements, information meetings, collecting documents, information, and payments, leaving you the time to be able to prepare for the trip as a spiritual leader of the group. You can create small Bible studies, devotionals, and focused prayer times. If this sounds like a valuable investment for your church, contact me by email at bucketlisttravelagent@gmail.com or message me on Facebook at Bucket List Travels by Christy Lundy to set up your phone call or meeting today. Have a blessed day.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? You see, when I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of questions. Questions like, how do I record an episode? Or how do I get my show into all the apps that people use to listen to podcasts? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it is completely 100% free and super easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that is exactly what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. So if you always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/start and join me in a diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I cannot wait to hear your podcast.
Greetings. This is Steve Salyards, the author of the GA Junkie, and here are some Presbyterian history notes for the week of August 18th. Sunday, August 18th. On this day in 1804, William Anderson was born. He was a son of the manse and trained with his father for the ministry. He served as a church planter and pastor on the frontier in the Midwest. He served for a while as a professor at Hanover College in Indiana, and later as the president of Miami University in Ohio. Monday, August 19th. In 1793, Elisha Mitchell was born. Besides being a pastor, he was also a geologist, science professor, and for a while the acting president of the University of North Carolina. While at UNC, he regularly led the chapel services there. Reverend Mitchell also documented the highest point in the eastern U.S., which was subsequently named for him, Mount Mitchell in North Carolina. Tuesday, August 20th. Benjamin Harrison was born on this day in 1833. Best known as a lawyer, politician, and as the 23rd President of the United States. He was also an active ruling elder and youth Sunday school teacher. It is reported that Harrison was a faithful usher, serving the Sunday before he became president and resuming service the first Sunday after his term ended. An interesting side note is that he attended Miami University, where Reverend Anderson, mentioned previously, was the president, and Harrison was a roommate of Anderson's son at Miami. Wednesday, August 21st. This is the 200th anniversary of the death of Samuel Stanhope Smith. He served as a pastor in Virginia and was the founding president of Hampden-Sydney College. He was a student of the Reverend John Witherspoon at the College of New Jersey and was later a professor and assistant to Witherspoon at the College of New Jersey. And he was also Witherspoon's son-in-law. Upon Witherspoon's death in 1795, Smith was elected as the 7th president of the college. He was the moderator of the 11th PCUSA General Assembly in 1799. Thursday, August 22nd. In 1948, the First Assembly of the World Council of Churches convened in Amsterdam. The council had been envisioned and the groundwork laid in the 1930s, but the actual implementation was delayed by World War II. The meeting ran through September 4th, and there were 147 member churches at the first meeting. The 24th of August is marked as St. Bartholomew's Day, and two important Reformed and Presbyterian events are associated with that day. The better-known event began the night before, on August 23rd of 1572, the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre began with the targeted assassinations, ordered by King Charles IX, of leading Huguenots gathered in Paris for the royal wedding of the king's sister. Over the next few days, it developed into mob violence and spread outward into the country. It was the worst religious massacre of that century, and the death toll is not known with any certainty, but estimates range from 10,000 Huguenots to over 3 times that. The second event occurred 90 years later, in 1662, when another Charles, this being Charles II of England, with the English Parliament, made August 24th the day for English church leaders to comply with the Act of Uniformity. The Act required that ministers and government officials to affirm and adhere to the Book of Common Prayer, including the liturgy, sacraments, and episcopal government. About 2,500 dissenters and nonconformist ministers, a large majority of them Presbyterians, refused. They lost their positions, leading to what became known as the Great Ejection, and the day itself as Black Bartholomew's Day. Thanks for joining me here on the EAR podcast, and I look forward to joining you again next week.
Hey guys, I'm glad you stuck around. Now let's get back to the conversation.
All right. As we continue our episode, we're going to move on to the spot where we talk about praying for our children. And how can we pray for our children? We kind of talked about this in the first segment, that your great-grandfather and your grandmother and all prayed for your family, and you ended up back in the ministry. So how can you, as a father or as a mother, pray for your children?
I'm going to shoot you straight. I am stealing my answer from a good article by Barnabas Piper, one of John Piper's sons. He actually wrote it called How to Pray for the Pastor's Kids at Your Church. And I have been reading all of his commentary on being a pastor's kid the last few years as I think about how can I raise some pastor's kids and pass on as little of my baggage as possible to them. They're going to be messed up. We know that. They're going to need grace. But, how could I avoid unnecessarily complicating their lives? And he says, we pray that they would know and love Jesus. We pray that they would find their identity in Jesus. And you can even hear that in my kids laughing and worrying. Are you laughing at me or with me? Everybody wants to be liked. And so I can even tell the little kids, the 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds in our church, they're concerned about who's funnier, who makes the dad or teacher laugh, who makes dad smile, who's impressing their parents by carrying out the rules, who's impressing us with their reading or their catechism. The reality is, if you try to prove yourself in all those areas and try to spend your life proving yourself, life's going to be no fun. It's going to be no joy.
Right.
That they would find their identity in Jesus, that they'd love their family. I would love for my kids to talk about their family the way that I've heard a few adult Christians talk about their family of origin, which is, man, it was a blessing. My parents loved me. We knew Jesus. We walked with him together. I'd love for that, for my kids to love their family. I pray that for others too. And then that they would love their church. A verse that I've been talking about with my kids in that breakfast table lately is Psalm 122:1. It says, I was glad when they told me it was time to go to the temple of the Lord. And I told my kids, hey guys, you get so hype when we go to church because you love seeing your friends. You love seeing your friends' parents. You like your Sunday school classes. You like being in big church for the music. I just pray that they would, for the rest of their life, love going to the house of the Lord, that they wouldn't say like, oh my gosh, do we have to go learn about Jesus? Do we have to go spend time with his people? Do we have to see all those adults that love me and think about me since I was a child? I hope that they love that for their whole lives. So I think that's a great thing to pray for kids, especially pastors' kids. They would love their church.
We're going to go back to the word, and we're going to take a look at Philippians 4:8 and 9. And when you get there, say word.
Okay. Go eat pork chops. Galatians, Ephesians.
See, I learned it as go eat popcorn.
Colossians. Yeah, but go eat pork chops kind of summarizes the message of those 4 books.
Huh.
It's a little Levitical law joke.
Philippians 4. Got it.
All right.